The year was 2378. Humanity had spread across the stars, building colonies on more than 50 planets. But one day, something appeared at the edge of known space, a ship so massive it blocked the light of a nearby sun. It was not human. It belonged to the Valari Empire, a race no one had ever met before. The Valari were powerful, tall and beautiful, but cold as ice. Their leader was Queen Sarathis, known across the galaxy as the Silver Queen. Her skin shimmered like metal, her eyes glowed like twin stars, and her voice carried the weight of command. She saw humanity not as equals, but as insects that had crawled too far into her empire's sky. When the first human fleet tried to communicate, the Queen's words echoed across every channel. "You have no place among the stars. Return to your cradle or be erased from it." But humanity never stepped back. Among those who stood against her was Captain Adrian Vale, commander of the human starship Eclipse. Unlike others, Adrian didn't answer her with anger. He simply said, "If we don't belong among the stars, then neither does courage." That message spread everywhere, from Earth to the moons of Titan. Humanity united like never before. And that was when the Queen made her move. Her fleets struck hard. Dozens of colonies were destroyed in hours. Cities burned under alien fire. But humans kept fighting. They refused to kneel. In the middle of the chaos, Eclipse was hit and crashed on a remote planet, one ruled by the Valari. Everyone died, except Captain Adrian. When he woke up, he was surrounded by tall alien soldiers. And in front of him stood the Queen herself. "Human," she said, her voice calm but dangerous. "You are the one who spoke of courage. Now show it." Adrian looked around. His ship was gone. His people were dead. He was alone on an alien world. But he didn't bow. "If courage means standing, even when you've lost everything," he said, "then I have plenty left." For the first time, the Queen did not speak. She just looked at him, curious, almost confused. No human had ever stood before her like that. Most screamed or begged. This one didn't. She ordered her guards to keep him alive. No one understood why. Days turned into weeks. The Queen often came to see him. She asked about Earth, about humanity, about the meaning of love, loyalty, and hope. Adrian answered simply, but his words began to change her. She had conquered hundreds of worlds, yet never met someone who looked at her not with fear, but with defiance and compassion. One night, as storms roared outside her palace, the Queen stood by her window, watching the lightning. "Your kind is strange," she said softly. "You burn bright even when you are dying." Adrian replied, "That's what makes us human. We shine the most when the darkness grows." Something shifted in her eyes. It wasn't hate anymore. It was something else, something dangerous even to her. But before she could understand it, a message arrived. Her generals had found Earth. They were preparing to destroy it. The Queen turned away from Adrian, her heart caught between duty and something she couldn't explain. He watched her go, not knowing that this war, this meeting, would change both of their species forever. Because in that single moment, in the heart of an alien palace, the first spark between human and Valari was born. A spark that would either unite two worlds or destroy them both. The conflict begins. The great halls of the Valari palace were silent that night. Silver flames floated in the air, burning without heat. Queen Sarathis stood before the window of her throne room, watching the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, the world her generals now planned to destroy. She should have been proud. For years she had dreamed of wiping out humanity, this noisy race that dared to challenge the Valari Empire. But instead of satisfaction, she felt uncertain. A strange warmth had begun to live in her chest, something she had never felt before. It had started the day she met Captain Adrian Vale. In the lower chambers, Adrian sat in his cell, looking at the strange lights on the walls. He had been questioned many times, yet he never broke. Instead, he kept talking about humanity's hope, music and dreams. Some of the Valari guards secretly began to listen to him, curious about the world their queen wanted to erase. One morning, the doors opened and Sarathis entered. The guard stepped back as she walked towards Adrian. "You seem comfortable here," she said. He smiled weakly. "I'd rather be free, but I'm getting used to your hospitality." The queen's silver eyes narrowed, but there was no anger. Your people fight with passion, yet you are doomed. My fleets will burn your home before the next sunrise. Adrian stood slowly. Then you'll only prove what I've been saying all along. That fear rules your empire, not honor. Those words hit deeper than he knew. For the first time, the queen felt insulted. Not because of his tone, but because there was truth in it. Fear did rule her empire, fear of change, fear of weakness. And Adrian represented both. Later that day, the queen met with her generals. The main warlord, Commander Threx, stood tall, his armor gleaming black. "My queen," he said sharply, "we have located Earth. Our fleet awaits your command. Once we strike, humanity will never rise again." The council roared in approval, but the queen did not answer. She stared at the map, at the blue planet glowing faintly among the stars. "Delay the attack," she said. The room fell silent. "Delay?" Threx asked, his voice full of disbelief. "Forgive me, Majesty, but why show mercy to the enemy?" "Because I command it," she replied coldly, "and you will obey." But the look in Threx's eyes said everything. Doubt had begun to grow among her people. The Queen of Iron Will was hesitating, all because of one human prisoner. That night, Sarathis returned to Adrian's chamber again. She found him sitting on the floor, drawing lines in the dust. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Sketching Earth," he said softly. "I don't want to forget it." The queen looked at the rough shape of a planet drawn by human fingers. For a moment, she forgot she was an empress and saw only a lonely man, far from home, still dreaming of his world. "You could save it," he whispered suddenly. "You don't have to be our enemy." Her heart jumped, an emotion she was not trained to feel. "You dare to suggest I betray my people? I'm suggesting you choose your own truth," he said calmly. "Not the one your generals built for you." She turned and left without another word. But that night she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face, not as an enemy, but as someone who saw her as more than a ruler, as a person. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the palace, Commander Threx watched everything. He had noticed the queen's visits, her hesitation, and her silence during council. His loyalty began to fade, replaced by ambition. "If the queen has grown weak," he muttered, "then perhaps the empire needs a new ruler." Far above the planet, Valari fleets were already preparing to move, and Earth stood unaware of the storm coming. Between duty and heart, the queen would soon have to choose, and her choice would change the fate of two worlds. The rebellion within days passed, and whispers began to spread through the great halls of the Valari Empire. The queen had changed. She no longer smiled at victory reports. She no longer ordered the destruction of human ships. Instead, she spent hours alone, or worse, visiting the human prisoner. To the Valari nobles, this was a dangerous sign. To Commander Threx, it was an opportunity. In secret meetings deep within the war chamber, Threx gathered the most loyal warriors. "Our queen hesitates," he said, his voice low but sharp. "She speaks of peace while our enemies still breathe. If she will not finish this war, then we will." The generals nodded, their metallic faces reflecting the dim light. The rebellion had begun, silent but strong. Meanwhile, far below the palace, Adrian stood at the window of his chamber. He could see the twin moons rising, silver and gold. He thought of Earth, of the oceans, the laughter, and the small blue sky that now felt like a dream. Then, the door opened. It was her. Queen Sarathis entered quietly, her long silver cloak brushing the floor. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy, filled with things neither dared to say. "You are quiet tonight," Adrian said finally. "I have too many voices in my head," she replied. "Some call for mercy, others for war." He looked at her. "Which voice is yours?" She turned away. "I don't know anymore." For the first time, the queen, the ruler of 1,000 worlds, looked uncertain. Adrian stepped closer but didn't touch her. "Maybe you're hearing your heart for the first time," he said softly. Her eyes met his, and something unspoken passed between them. It wasn't love yet, but it was close. Something fragile, dangerous, and real. Suddenly the door burst open. A young Valari soldier rushed in, trembling. "My queen, Commander Threx is gathering ships." He says the time for war has come. The Queen's eyes hardened. Without my order? Yes, Majesty. He plans to attack Earth tonight. For a second she stood frozen, then her voice thundered through the chamber. Prepare my ship. The great palace shook as alarms blared. Valari soldiers moved through the corridors, unsure who to follow, their queen or Threx. The Empire was splitting in half. Adrian stood by the door as she prepared to leave. You're going to stop him, he said. I must, she replied. If he destroys Earth, everything I've begun to believe will die with it. He stepped forward. Then let me come with you. She looked at him with surprise and a small, sad smile. You are my prisoner, Adrian Vale. He met her gaze steadily. Then I'll be your prisoner on the bridge. Something inside her broke. She nodded. Very well, human. Stand beside me. But know this. Once we reach Threx, mercy will not save us. The Queen's warship, the Eternal Crown, rose into the sky like a blade of silver light. Adrian stood on the command deck beside her, feeling the hum of alien engines beneath his feet. Ahead of them, stars burned cold and bright, and somewhere beyond them waited Threx's fleet. As they jumped into hyperspace, the Queen spoke quietly, almost to herself. They think I am weak because I hesitate, but mercy is not weakness. It is the hardest path a ruler can walk. Adrian looked at her and said, Then you're stronger than they'll ever understand. Her eyes flickered toward him, and for the first time, she smiled, faintly but real, far away. Threx's ships gathered in formation near Earth's orbit, ready to strike. He believed victory was near, but he didn't know that the Queen, and the human she once called an insect, were coming to stop him. And so began the greatest rebellion the Valari Empire had ever seen, one that would decide not just the fate of Earth, but the heart of their queen, battle for Earth. The stars twisted as the Eternal Crown dropped out of hyperspace. Before them, the blue sphere of Earth filled the main screen, glowing softly against the darkness. But peace lasted only a moment. Across the void, hundreds of warships hung in formation, the fleet of Commander Threx. Each ship pulsed with red light, their weapons already locked on target. The rebellion was real, and it was waiting. Queen Sarathis stood tall on her command bridge, her silver armor reflecting the glow of the monitors. Around her, Valari officers whispered nervously. Many still questioned her loyalty, unsure if their queen had truly come to stop the attack, or to join it. Adrian Vale stood beside her, calm but alert. For him, this was more than a battle. It was home. Every human alive was down there, depending on a single alien queen who once wanted to erase them. Threx's ships are charging weapons, the navigator said. They're aiming at Earth's orbit. Open a channel, Sarathis commanded. The screen flickered, revealing Commander Threx. His face was hard, his tone full of arrogance. My queen, he said mockingly, you finally decided to arrive. Have you come to watch the end of your favorite pets? Sarathis' eyes burned bright. You have betrayed my command, Threx. Stand down before I erase you myself. He laughed, a deep, metallic sound. You've gone soft, Majesty. The Empire needs strength, not compassion. Humanity is nothing but a disease, and I will cure it. Then you leave me no choice, she said coldly. Prepare to face judgment. The signal cut. The first blasts lit up the void. Beams of red fire crossed the darkness as Thrax's fleet opened fire. The Eternal Crown shook violently, alarms screaming across the bridge. Shields at 60%. Someone shouted. Adrian grabbed the railing to steady himself. We can't win by defense alone, he said. You'll need to outsmart him, not outgun him. The Queen glanced at him, her mind racing. She had commanded fleets for centuries, but never against her own people. She closed her eyes for a second. Then her voice turned sharp as a blade. Order all ships to form the halo pattern. Pull back the forward line. Make them chase us. Her commanders hesitated but obeyed. The Valari fleet under her command began to move, curving around Threx's armada like a silver crescent. Threx saw it and took the bait. Fools, he muttered. Run if you must. I will end this myself. He sent half his ships forward, following the Queen into open space. That was when she gave the real command. Now, release the solar flare mines. From the Eternal Crown, hundreds of small glowing orbs shot outward. They drifted for a moment, then exploded into bright white fire, blinding Threx's pursuing fleet. Direct hits. A Velarry officer shouted. "Enemy ships disabled, 40% losses." Adrian couldn't believe it. The Queen had used the system's sun itself, bending its light and radiation as a weapon. It was brilliant, terrifying, and beautiful. But Threx was still alive. His flagship, the Iron Spear, pushed through the flames, weapons glowing bright red. He opened fire again, this time straight at the Eternal Crown. The impact was brutal. Sparks flew across the bridge. Adrian fell, hitting the floor hard. The Queen's guards rushed to protect her. "Shields critical!" yelled the pilot. "One more hit and we're done." The Queen rose, steady as ever. "Not yet," she said. She looked at Adrian, who was bleeding from his forehead. "You wanted to stand beside me, human. Now we finish this together." He stood, meeting her gaze. "Then let's show them what courage really means." She gave one final command. "Target the Iron Spear's core. All power to the main cannon. Fire." The Eternal Crown glowed brighter than a star and unleashed a beam of pure energy. It tore through space, cutting across Threx's flagship. The explosion that followed lit up the sky over Earth, brighter than any sunrise. Silence followed. The battle was over. The rebel fleet broke apart, drifting without command. On the bridge, Sarathis watched the burning wreckage of her former general. Her voice was low but firm. "The war is over. But the real fight has just begun." Adrian looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" She turned slowly. "The Velarry Empire will not forgive this. I have defied my own kind. From this moment, both of us are enemies to them." Outside the window, Earth turned quietly beneath them, saved, but not safe. Exile among the stars, the war was over, but peace did not follow. After the destruction of the Iron Spear, the Velarry Empire branded Queen Sarathis a traitor. Across the stars, messages were broadcast. The Queen has fallen to human weakness. She has betrayed the honor of the Velarry. She must be captured or destroyed. In one moment, the ruler of 1,000 worlds became the most wanted being in the galaxy. The Eternal Crown, once the pride of the Empire, was now a ghost ship. Its crew was divided, half loyal to their queen, half afraid of her choices. Sarathis dismissed most of them, leaving only a small team who still believed in her cause. Among them was Adrian Vale, the human who had changed everything. Days turned into weeks as they traveled through empty regions of space, silent, cold, and uncharted. Their supplies ran low, and systems began to fail. But they kept moving, avoiding Velarry patrols and human scouts alike. On Earth, governments argued about what to do. Some saw Sarathis as a savior who had stopped the attack. Others saw her as a dangerous alien who might return with a new army. Humanity was divided, just like the Empire. Inside the ship, Adrian and the Queen spent long nights working together. They repaired systems, studied maps, and talked. He spoke about music, oceans, and the smell of rain. She listened quietly, fascinated by things she had never experienced. In return, she told him about the Velarry, how her people were born in metal cities under dying suns, taught from birth to value perfection over emotion. "You were raised to rule," Adrian said one night, "but never to feel." She looked at him, her silver eyes soft. "And yet, I feel now. It is painful, but it also makes me alive." For a moment, silence filled the room. The hum of the engines was the only sound. Then she asked, almost in a whisper, "Do you regret saving me?" He smiled faintly. "You saved us first. Maybe now it's my turn to save you." But peace never lasted long. One day alarms screamed through the corridors. A Velarry cruiser had found them. The Eternal Crown was too damaged to fight, and their jump engines were still offline. "Boarding ships incoming," shouted a soldier. Sarathis gripped the command rail, her face hard. "We fight to the last," but Adrian stepped forward. "No, we don't need to fight. We need to survive." He ran to the escape deck, forcing open a small transport pod. "Get in." The Queen hesitated. "You would risk your life for me again?" "I already did," he said with a grin. "Now move." They launched seconds before the Eternal Crown exploded in a burst of white fire. The shockwave threw their pod spinning into the darkness. For hours it drifted silently until finally it crashed onto a small desert moon. When Sarathis woke, her armor was cracked and her energy blade broken. Adrian lay nearby, unconscious but breathing. She pulled him to safety and built a shelter using broken pieces of the pod. Days passed. He healed slowly. She hunted strange, glowing creatures for food and used her own energy cells to keep him warm. Sometimes at night, she watched him sleep. The human who had changed her heart, the one she once called weak, now felt like the strongest being she had ever known. When he finally opened his eyes, he smiled. "Still alive?" She nodded, her voice soft. "Because of you." Far above the small moon, Valari search ships passed by, unaware of the fugitives hiding below. But time was not their friend. Both humans and aliens wanted them dead, and soon, their secret would be impossible to keep. Yet, as the days turned into nights under the twin suns, something new began to grow, something forbidden, something fragile. The queen who once rejected humanity now found herself drawn to one of them. Not as an enemy, but as something much deeper. And in that quiet exile, far from every world they once knew, the story of two hearts from different stars truly began. The secret child months passed on the lonely desert moon. The days were bright and endless, the nights cold and silent. Yet for the first time in her long life, Queen Sarathis felt peace. She was no longer a ruler, no longer the Silver Queen feared across the stars. She was simply Sarathis, a woman surviving with the one man who had once been her enemy. Adrian built tools from scrap metal, hunted for food, and repaired the wrecked pod piece by piece. He laughed often now, teaching her jokes she didn't understand and songs she couldn't quite sing. But she tried, and when she laughed, really laughed, it startled even her. One evening, under the light of two moons, they sat by the fire. The orange glow danced across her silver skin. "You know," Adrian said softly, "you never told me why you became queen." She looked into the fire. "Because I was the strongest. On my world, strength decides who leads. Weakness is death. And yet you spared us," he said. "That doesn't sound weak to me," she smiled faintly. "Maybe you've changed my meaning of strength." There was silence between them, not the cold kind, but the kind that carries understanding. Slowly, without realizing it, her hand reached for his, and this time, he didn't pull away. Weeks later, strange changes began to happen. Sarathis felt weaker, slower. Her energy core, the living pulse that gave every Valari power, began to flicker. Adrian noticed first. "You're pale," he said. "You haven't eaten much." "I'm fine," she insisted. But she wasn't. The great queen who once ruled armies could barely stand. One night she collapsed. Adrian caught her before she hit the ground. "Sarathis, what's wrong?" She tried to speak, but her voice trembled. "Something inside me changing." He carried her back to the shelter, fear in his eyes. The Valari were not like humans. Their bodies were machines of living energy and flesh. Any sickness could be fatal. For days he stayed by her side, refusing to leave. Then one night her silver eyes opened, glowing faintly in the dark. She took his hand, placed it on her stomach, and whispered, "Adrian, there's life." He froze. "Life," she nodded slowly. "I can feel it." A heartbeat. "Not mine." Adrian couldn't speak. A mix of shock and wonder filled his chest. "You mean, you're—" "Yes," she whispered. "I carry your child." The fire outside burned low as the truth settled between them. An impossible child, half human, half Valari, a symbol of two worlds that hated each other. Adrian sat beside her, silent. His mind raced with fear and awe. "If the Valari find out, they will hunt me. They will hunt us," she said calmly. "Such a child would be seen as an abomination." He looked into her eyes. "Then we protect it, no matter what." A tear, something rare for her kind, slipped down her cheek. "You would protect my child?" He smiled softly. "Our child." She closed her eyes, her heart pounding like thunder. For centuries she had commanded armies, but now, for the first time, she understood what it meant to love. As months passed, she grew weaker, but also calmer. Adrian built a hidden chamber deep in the caves to keep her safe from patrol scans. He learned how to read alien data logs, hoping to repair the pod enough to escape someday. Every night he placed his hand on her stomach, feeling the faint pulse of life. "He'll be strong," Adrian would say. "Maybe even stronger than us." Or she, Sarathis would whisper with a tired smile. But far above their quiet moon, things were changing. The Valari Empire had sent new ships into the sector, hunting for signs of their lost queen. And Earth, fearful of another attack, had launched deep space patrols of its own. Sooner or later, someone would find them, and when they did, the child growing within her would not just change their lives. It would change the destiny of both species, forever, because that child was proof that human and Valari were not so different after all. The return, the quiet peace of the desert. Moon did not last. One night the sky burned red. From beyond the horizon, dark shapes descended, Valari warships. Their scanners had finally found the Queen's lost signal. The Empire had come to finish what it started. Inside the cave, Adrian Vale watched the skies with dread. "They found us," he said. Queen Sarathis, weak but calm, stood beside him. Her silver armor was cracked, her strength fading, yet her eyes burned brighter than ever. In her arms she held a small infant wrapped in cloth made from her royal cloak. A tiny heartbeat echoed softly. Their child, the first of two species, had been born. Adrian touched the baby's hand. "He's beautiful," Sarathis smiled faintly. "He is hope. Our proof that light can exist between worlds." But the sound of landing troops grew closer. Drones filled the sky, scanning the sand for life signs. "They'll kill us," Adrian said. "And if they find the baby, they won't," Sarathis interrupted. Her voice was firm now. "We will not let them." Moments later, the cave shook as explosions hit nearby. Adrian grabbed his blaster and turned to her. "I'll buy you time," he said, but she shook her head. "No, we stand together as one." She handed him a small crystal, glowing faintly blue. "This holds the coordinates of every hidden world I once ruled. If we fall, this child must live. Promise me you'll protect him." Adrian looked at her. "We protect him together," she hesitated, then nodded. The first wave of soldiers entered the canyon, black armor gleaming, weapons ready. At their front was High Commander Threx's successor, a ruthless general named Valor. "Queen Sarathis," he shouted through the dust. "By the law of the Empire, you are sentenced to death. Hand over the hybrid child, and your suffering will be brief." Sarathis stepped forward, her child hidden behind her cloak. "You call him hybrid," she said coldly, "but I call him future." Valor raised his weapon. "Then the future dies today." Before he could fire, a blast of plasma struck his soldiers. Adrian had climbed to the ridge above, firing from cover. "Over my dead body," he shouted. The battle began, the canyon filled with smoke and fire. Sarathis unleashed the last of her energy, sending waves of light that tore through enemy drones. But every attack weakened her more. Adrian fought like a man possessed, for his child, for her, for the peace they'd dreamed of. Yet there were too many. Soon both were cornered. Valor approached slowly. "You could have ruled forever," he sneered. "Instead you die for a human." Sarathis looked at Adrian. Her voice was calm. "No, I live because of one." With her last strength, she pulled Adrian close and placed the baby in his arms. "Go," she whispered. "Take him and run. The universe will need him. I won't leave you." Adrian cried, her silver eyes softened. "You already saved me once. Let me save you now." Before he could protest, she turned, gathering the last of her energy core. The air shimmered, the ground trembled. "For the child," she said. "For the future." A massive surge of light exploded from her body, blinding the battlefield. When it faded, the canyon was silent. The soldiers were gone. Only Adrian and the child remained. Years later, on a small green world near the edge of human space, a boy with silver eyes and a human smile looked up at the stars. Adrian watched him from a distance, his heart heavy with memory. The boy pointed upward. "Father, what's that bright star?" Adrian smiled faintly. "That's where your mother came from. And maybe one day you'll go there. Not as a warrior, but as a bridge." The boy nodded, his eyes full of light. "Between two worlds?" Yes, Adrian said softly. Between two hearts. And somewhere far away among the stars, a faint shimmer of silver light drifted, like the echo of a queen who once ruled galaxies, and gave it all for love. The universe had changed forever, because one alien queen who once rejected humanity had found her soul in one of them.